loan my friend John $1,000 than for me to give my friend John $1,000. And if I loan my friend John $1,000 at a premium interest rate that exceeds the cost at which I borrow, it may even be profitable for me to lend money to my friend John. And if I am making a profit, the question of in what sense I am subsidizing him becomes a rather subtle one. So take as a concrete example that poses the issue the loan that the United States made to Mexico in 1995. The loan that the United States made to Mexico came at a premium of, let's say on average, about 200 basis points over the Treasury's borrowing cost. At the time the United States made it, Mexico would have probably been unable to borrow at any interest rate below 1,000 basis points, and perhaps would have been unable to borrow, more realistically, probably would have been unable to borrow at all. So how does one think about that 200 basis point loan? One way to think about it is we made a profit, 200 is more than zero. Another way to think about it is, well, wait, the market price of a loan to Mexico was 1,000 basis points. We made the loan at 200 basis points. Therefore, the loan is underwater in the first instant. Another way to think about it is, well, the market price is 200 basis. The market price is 1,000 basis points, but that's assuming that it's Citibank trying to collect from Mexico. Probably the United States is going to be much better at collecting from Mexico for a variety of reasons than Citigroup, just as the Fed is going to be much better at collecting from Merrill Lynch than most others. So there's considerable subtlety involved in judging whether lending activity at premium interest rates does or does not constitute a subsidy. Almost always it will be profitable if paid back relative to the lender's borrowing cost. Almost always it will be at an interest rate that is lower than the borrower could borrow at on the markets. And almost always, in the case of public or quasi-public activity, there will be a reasonable argument that the lender is better at collecting than the private sector would have been. So the question of evaluating subsidy is difficult. The position that I always took as Secretary of the Treasury with respect to the IMF was, look, we've got a long experience, and over time our loans have been paid back, and we've made money. And so you can't really think of this as bailout and subsidy. And I think it was a pretty strong argument. I would want to resist in the strongest terms the idea that because government involvement will affect private sector behavior, there is to be some presumption that it is to be avoided. Yes? You know, the world is a very uncertain place, and default risks are very difficult to judge. It's far from clear that, as a general matter, investors understate default risks. Indeed, I think most people who've looked closely at pricing patterns in bond markets would tell you that, if anything, investors systematically overstate default risks. And so, on a very consistent basis, if you buy riskier bonds and sell safer bonds, that on average proves to be a profitable strategy, and even proves to be a profitable strategy adjusting for the degree of risk that you're taking. But the premise of policy has tended to be a great deal of emphasis on transparency, in the hope that with more transparency and better information, investors will make more rational decisions and will make more rational decisions ex ante. There are also a set of issues that are involved here, and I'll say something about this tomorrow, having to do with the fact that the optimal number of auto accidents is not 0. And the optimal number of plane crashes is not 0. There is a trade-off to be made between accepting a certain possibility of accident and a variety of advantages that come from the conservation of capital and the making available of finance in a variety of ways. Thank you very much.